Hello, good afternoon. It's just gone afternoon. I'm hosting today's meeting, so I'm just going to start with something just to bring us into the present moment. And so if you just take your focus to your breathing and allow yourself to perhaps enhance that breathing just a little bit. So you're breathing in to your abdomen, letting the whole of your ribs expand up to your shoulders, and the breathing out, just let those ribs just have that pressure that helps to push that air out. So you're breathing in, expanding like an umbrella, breathing out and relaxing, and then towards the end of that breath out, just drawing your abdominals in and up to enhance that breath out. So you're just doing it in your own time. And just bring your conscious awareness to where you are. Feel anything that's underneath you, behind you, or wherever. And know that you're also connecting online. So we are connecting with different people in different places. And just set the intention that you are here with the concept of liberation, opportunity, vitality, empowerment. And that we are part of the love movement in the United Kingdom, and that is rippling out throughout the world and even to all the different universes. And what we do, how we feel, the things we say, the actions and our behaviours inevitably will ripple out a vibration that affects everybody. And as we realise that, even our thoughts are impacting on others and the whole of nature. So when we keep those focused to totally unconditional love, respecting ourselves, respecting each other and the whole of nature, then we can really be living in the now and do what feels right for ourselves and for others right now. Okay, and then when you're ready, you want to open your eyes, bring yourself back to this group. Right, I'm going to go to Rachel first, because I know we've had some discussion about some things that we might want to talk about today, which I think is to do with the draft charter and also to do with the potential of an annual gathering for the love movement that we're part of. So Rachel.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. Yes, so a lot of focus of energy has been going into locating a venue for Saturday, the 30th September, which is our annual general meeting. And we've asked people to put that date in the diary pretty much from months ago now. And it's been quite incredible, the level of kind of pushback that we've had. Obviously, a lot of places just simply aren't available, but places that have been available and are sort of workable and within our kind of vision of what we want to create, which is a space in the round, really, where we can sit in circle. To me, that's very, very important. To sing in circle, sit in circle, to have a discussion circle, as opposed to a sort of theatre style. Anyway, to cut a long story short, we've been rejected from all of these bookings. And we did think we had the monastery at Gorton in Manchester lined up, which would have been an amazing venue. It's a very magical venue, actually. I've done many events there, several events there, actually. But they basically said that their corporate funding would not appreciate a political party. I mean, we're not, obviously we're not a political party, but I guess we are a political movement. It has to be said. I would say that we are a movement of people and people's rights more than anything. We're part of the freedom movement. But it's the thing that I mean, I've been doing a lot of this research myself and really tuning in to just how much of a cancel culture there is, and the way that the wind is blowing is that the power that big corporate has ultimately it's, ultimately, what would any organization that speaks out or represents an alternative view be able to do without access to venues or resources? So I think there's a bigger issue here which we're coming up against, and I do feel it's going to increasingly be the case in all sorts of areas, that you won't be able to access resources if you are one of those people who are speaking out or questioning the status quo. So there's a big issue which is unfolding right now. I guess on the other side of the issue for me, as an event organizer, as someone who's very experienced at putting on events over many years, for example, Gorton Monastery is a capacity of 550 people. So how do you get from, a handful of people turning up on a call like this one, which is very accessible? You don't have to get in a car and travel. You just have to show up for an hour once a month. And yet we only have 8 people on the call. So was this a blessing in disguise? Could we have attracted 500 people into that venue, or would it just have been a few goldfish in a very large bowl, so to speak? So we are at an interesting point and it comes back to this thing of engagement, which is what I've talked about on many occasions now. Because the reminder, I just sent the reminder out to I think there's 138 in our membership. I only sent it to the membership. We have now got people signing up to the Love Movement. And this is another thing to discuss, because those people haven't actually paid a subscription. There have been some donations coming in, but so far those people haven't been included in these invites. So that's another point for discussion of how we grow this movement and what are the sort of boundaries and parameters. And then, of course, the other big issue is the People's Charter, which was, of course, one of the things to be discussed at the 30th September meeting. And I think Lynn had got William Keat lined up, although I wasn't aware whether he had agreed to travel to Manchester. But I'm pretty sure she has him lined up to lead a discussion on the People's Charter of Inalienable Rights for the 21st century, which I think in itself would be quite a draw for people to come and be part of that discussion about really getting clarity on what these rights are, and to bring them much more into conscious awareness. I think that's a big part of what we're about. That people have this awareness of their common law rights, which have kind of been obfuscated by the system and the false matrix, which would have you believe that it holds all the power over us, which is simply not true, and returning the power to the people, which really is the essence of the Love Movement. So that's my little update. So in terms of the event, we can either persevere with the 30th September, or to give ourselves more time, we can reschedule it, maybe for even possibly early next year, 2024, to give us a chance to build momentum and numbers so that we can do a gathering in the round, which, we can just have a little bit more time. It does take a lot of time to call these venues. A lot of them you have to send emails, follow them up, wait for them to reply. It's quite a long process.
Yeah. And I really do appreciate all the time and energy and efforts you've put into this, Rachel. And it's not only that, it's the sort of the number of cul-de-sacs that you've been given, that you've been able to do anything more. And even the frustration of that, I'm glad that you've been able to share some of that with us, but also we still don't know everything that you've gone through. I know some of the discussion along the way, I think Simon suggested that we could have different events happening at different places and connect through online. So is that something that you think we might even be able to do either for the 30th of September or for early next year? Rachel?
Yeah, well, I mean, what that would require is one person from each region to volunteer themselves to organize that event locally, so that we've got a whole, maybe 6 different venues or 8 different venues around the country where our members are, and for people to volunteer themselves and to take it upon themselves to organize, because I if we're going to devolve that locally, then people need to step forward locally to do that, in my humble opinion.
Okay,
and I'm happy to do the marketing and send the e-shots out to everyone to say, here's the 6 venues or the 8 venues.
Lovely, thank you, Rachel. I'm going to come to Simon, just because he had mentioned that in a previous one, and for any input at all that you want to give or discussion today, Simon.
Yeah, do appreciate all the work you put in, Rachel, but my personal opinion is the fact that it's not seemed to be happening is actually a blessing in disguise, and it's telling us something. I got involved in this because I just got fed up of the fact that every time I went to an election, there was nobody I wanted to vote for. And this subliminal message is you can't vote for an independent because they're not going to win, and the whole point is you're only supposed to vote for somebody who might win. The absurdity of that. There are 650 constituencies. I think what we need is 650 advocates, evangelists. You want to find somebody in every constituency, and the focus is, like I said before, to find a genuine candidate where people feel that they're voting for an independent in their area, but this independent is an affiliate of something bigger.
Yeah.
And the reason I say the meeting not happening is maybe a blessing is because if we genuinely start to scare them, they'll be all over like a rash and using anything that they can use against us. And if they say, oh, this is just a fringe movement about deschooling and anti-establishment, which we are, but the simple fact of the matter is the people that we want to vote for us, are conservative with a small c, and are easily spooked. It will be so easy to put them off voting for us unless our message is very simple, very clear. Can we find a candidate in your constituency that you will genuinely trust, who is aligned with a similar message in every constituency up and down the country? I wouldn't go any wider than that. I'd just keep it just a simple message.
And how do you feel about either postponing or having, if we can, online, or 6 or 8 different places?
Well, the beauty of doing it online is you can pull that together when it's appropriate. If you set a date, you're putting pressure on yourself. And my perspective is that when you started, it was awesome, but you and Rachel especially got very focused on your own campaign, and that was the focus for like 2 months. And now the last 2 months has all been about the venue, when there's so much more that we could be doing. I mean, one of the things we should really be doing is what would we do if we won? Can we really step in and do it differently without the whole thing falling to bits?
Well, we do want the whole thing to fall to bits, but something to come through.
if that message is implied, people will never vote for that.
No.
They've got to genuinely believe there will be a period of continuity. All those people on benefits or disability allowance or whatever it happens to be, or anybody that's got a job for the government, of which there are millions, or the NHS, which is another few million.
Well, it's interesting that you've expressed it like that, Simon, because I was actually somewhere locally this week, and they've got a new person that is involved with the community support group. And she came in and introduced herself, and someone said to her, well, what are you going to do for us? And she turned around and said, well, actually, I've come here to find out what you need and would like me to be doing. I don't want to be imposing on you. And that's been my approach all along. And yes, I got 936 votes, which wasn't quite 5% to get the deposit refunded, but it's taught me a lot. And also when people know that we are genuine, so this community group that I'm going to, at first they were very wary of, why is she coming here doing this for nothing? etc., etc. And only over the weeks, as they've got to know me, they've realised that I am genuine and I'm not like some of the people that have been there before that were really wanting to just take over and sort of have their own benefits from what they were doing. And it's been lovely because I've been, I think it's 6 weeks now, and only the 4th, 5th and 6th week did they start to really trust me. And so that's where I'm coming from on this. So when you think of us postponing 30th of September, are you happy enough that, okay, we might do an online on that day, or what's your preference?
Just it gives us a lot more flexibility. I don't think we need necessarily to decide. I mean, I've never mentioned it before, but one of my primary responsibilities is as a carer for my 91-year-old mother. So I probably wouldn't have gone anyway.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and hopefully whatever event we have, we might be able to connect with people online as well, because that's the number of things I've been to recently that that is happening at different meetings. Okay.
I've been thinking about 2 things recently, and I did a bit of research. One was Martin Bell. Martin Bell basically did what we're talking about in one constituency. He focused on Tatton, where they'd had the experience of the whole Hamilton thing and the brown paper envelopes, and he waltzed in one constituency. So he tapped in to a disillusionment very, very effectively. That's what we need to replicate in every constituency.
Yeah.
And the second thing I was thinking about is, how they absolutely destroyed Jeremy Corbyn, because once he became a real threat, even within his own party, they turned the wolves on him. So we can't I don't think we should do anything which makes us subject. I mean, you might feel we need to be honest and upfront and transparent, and yeah, all those are all good things. But if it starts to become aware that there's something happening, and they might lose this 2-party hold, 3-4 party, pretty much 2-party, then they will be all over us like a rash.
Yeah, and like you say about the Martin Bell thing, it was one constituency, but it was that specific one. And so just because he managed that there doesn't mean that others of us can do it in that same way, because everywhere is so different.
Well, if he did it then, it must be much easier now, because people are more pissed off than ever, surely.
Yeah, and hopefully that's a good role model for us. And the 100th Monkey Syndrome, as we raise this consciousness, hopefully it will filter out. So Rachel's put her hand up, and I think in response to something that Simon said. So I'm just going to go to her now, and then I'll come to Prakash.
Just a very, very quick point, which is something to echo what Lynn always says, and I know you feel, Julie, is about the power of human connection, which is why we don't want to do online stuff. We want to try and do as much offline stuff, shall we say, human connection, meetings in person. And so just wanted to put that in the mix, which is so important.
Yeah, and as Simon said, if he was excluded because of the caring role he has, hopefully we'll be able to at least bring some online in. But if we can emphasize that as much as possible, if people could physically get together, and I mean, it might even be that Simon would be in a situation that someone could physically go to where he is, or a small group, to allow at least some physical connection.
Well, I'd love to take responsibility for doing what we're talking about in Tewkesbury. Tewkesbury is a small market town, but it is also a constituency. Our MP is Lawrence Robinson. It's a strange patch that takes in parts of Cheltenham and Gloucester. And I know people locally. I know local MPs. I know Lawrence Robinson a little bit, but I know borough and county councillors.
Yeah.
And I can't do anything nationally, but I can do something locally.
Yeah. Lovely. Okay, thank you. Right, I'm going to come round everybody, hopefully. We're at 12:20 now, and we're on for an hour until 1 o'clock. So, Prakash, I come to you now.
Hi.
Am I saying your name correctly?
Yes, you are. Thank you. Thank you. Well done.
Just anything at all.
Sorry, I've been unwell the last couple of months, and I'm just recovering. But first of all, I'm I take Rachel's point about meeting in person. To be honest, I've got pretty fed up with Zoom and all this virtual stuff. And I think whilst there's a benefit to Zoom meetings, I think ultimately there's nothing better than being in person and being able to feel and experience people in their fullness, because we're only seeing each other in a particular way through this medium. So I think there is a benefit for not only understanding each other, but also making connection with each other in person. So I warm to that. I myself, unfortunately, can't make it on the 30th of September because I'm going to be abroad. I can't say I've got a fixed view as to how to take this forward, unfortunately. I mean, I think there would be a benefit, ironically, after what I've just said, in having an online meeting if September was the critical time to have the meeting. But I suppose the question is what's going to change between now and January to increase numbers? And I can't quite see what difference it would make if we reschedule. Yes, there's a hope and an anticipation that the numbers that would be prepared to come to a meeting would increase. But how likely is that? And is that worth organizing around that principle? So I'm afraid I'm just bringing questions in at this point. I do have a preference to meeting in person. Unfortunately, I can't make it on that particular occasion. But I think it would probably be worth having a go at doing that, just to make the connection, because I don't think we have all met as a group so far, and I think it would be a shame if we didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prakash. And I'm a complementary therapist. I do shiatsu massage and reflexology and things like that. I love working physically with people. And I know even from the meetings that I've been to online with the NHS and people, and then we had a physical meetup, people I've met online, we sort of almost didn't even recognise each other. And even they were really chuffed to meet face to face. So thank you. Right, Rachel, was there something you'd like to respond to that? And then I'll come to Roger next. So Roger can be undoing his microphone, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on what you said there, Prakash, because to me, the bridge that we need to cross really from where we are now to this being a movement is simply to engage everything that's already there, because there are huge numbers of local community groups, freedom hubs, consciously aware gatherings of souls who are awake to what's going on. So that to me is what needs to be tapped into. And so that was kind of the thinking of getting a venue and getting some interesting speakers and gathering to gather those people together, because it already exists. This is the point. And that's exactly what Christine Anderson, I mean, I loved that video you posted, Julie, which I then uploaded to the Love Party YouTube. And we're getting a lot of views on videos like that, which are difficult to share. So I put them onto Love Party and it gets a lot of subscribers and views. We've had 10,000 views so far across that channel, which is not much in the scheme of things, but it's a lot given that, you know, and a lot of the views are for content that are summations of what we stand for. So yeah, so Christine Anderson, what she was saying in that talk was about how big this movement is. So harnessing the movement that's already there is the trick. And it's how do you engage and inspire that movement? Because you see, this is the big challenge that I've noticed within the freedom movement. And I know Simon says we shouldn't be part of the freedom movement, but actually it's there and it's growing. The big challenge I perceive that we have in that is a lot of people within that movement are saying, don't vote, don't do politics, it's a waste of time. And it's almost like that rebellion of not voting. But unfortunately, that what that just leaves is an open goal for the big World Economic Forum backed parties just to stroll straight through into power, and they don't care that they only got 12% of the electorate. All they care about is getting the seat, because once they get that power, they don't care about, there's nothing. You look at what the Conservatives have done, you know, none of that was in the manifesto. It literally, they pushed the button on COVID literally upon winning that general election on the 13th of December 2019. It was like the final piece of the puzzle, push the button on COVID, and off they went and bulldozed through all of the bullshit which has happened. And you know, none of it was in their manifesto. Oh, it was COVID, no one knew. Yeah, well, you did know. It was all part of the plan. They just needed it. They needed Britain to fall.
And particularly while they've got this control over the mainstream media and what messages are getting out, and the lack of the other things that are getting out, people still are so unaware of what's happening. It's just amazes me. And I know they're getting frustrated in some ways, but some people I was talking to at the weekend, I'm staggered that, you know, they still think I'm quite crazy on some of my ideas, and yet they do know germ warfare is happening, etc. And yet,
and sorry, Julie, I just want to add one point, and this is something I want to really reiterate. And sorry to contradict you, Simon, but from a marketing point of view, if you look at every new trend, product, service, every new thing that was introduced into a market, it didn't go mass market on day one. It aimed at a smaller group of early adopters and innovators, which when it got to a critical mass, got to that 100th monkey syndrome, that tipping point, and then it captured the imagination of the mass market. And so I don't feel that, well, let's put it positively. I feel that if we are scared of upsetting the majority, we're going to just end up dumbing ourselves down because we're frightened. Personally, I feel that there's enough of a critical mass of people who are deeply dissatisfied with all the shit show. They probably had relatives who've been jabbed and have fallen down dead. I feel that there's enough, if we can capture that momentum, that of all the disenchanted people, that is the momentum to capture that critical mass. That's what's going to tip into a movement which captures the imagination, captures the zeitgeist, which has the potential to sweep away and create a dramatic step change, evolutionary shift. That's where I'm coming from. So I have a slightly different view. Anyway, I'll shut up now.
But it's also good that we can have our different views as well, and that we can voice them together. Okay, and we'll all have our own life journey. Right, I'm going to come to Roger now, but Simon, do you need to come in now just as a response to that?
Well, only to say, maybe I'm not explaining myself very well. I think we agree a lot more than you imagine, Rachel. We are a part of the free movement. We're very much at the core of it. I'm just talking about the message. I mean, I don't want to turn away from it internally, but I'm just saying in the short term, the external message. If you engage people, like you're saying, then you can start to seep in, you know, what you really want to say.
Yeah.
That's all I'm getting at. But,
and we will keep awaiting that inspiration from the universe for us as well. So thank you, Simon. Okay, Roger, any thoughts?
Well, not really. I've not got much to contribute this week. I'm mainly here to listen to everybody else. But just to remind everybody that I've got a gathering on the 26th at the Beagle Pub in York for anybody who'd like to come and associate, you know, and do as we all agree, you know, interchange ideas with one another. So that's really all I've got to say that's of any importance. Just to say, but to thank Rachel for all the work she's done trying to get this venue. It's very disappointing for her, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the work she's put in. And contrary to what she said on her voice message on Telegram, people do love her and appreciate her. So she must know that.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Roger. Okay, right. iPhone, I think you're Brian, aren't you? You'll have to unmute. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. I've always got a lot to say, you know that. I'm a simple fellow. Yes, I'm an ex-air conditioning fitter builder, and yeah, using my hands at school, arts and crafts, and that's sort of what we've got to get back to, isn't it? I come from a market town, and they had animals, cows, and stuff like that. It doesn't seem that many years ago, but it seems to have all been taken away from us. Oh dear, they seem to have weaponised the National Health Service, the mental health. They've weaponised everything, isn't it? Yes, it's sort of gone catch-22. But the good law is there in the background. We just need to get it back. What I was thinking, you see, what got me out, because I sort of lost a bit of health, and I realised I couldn't escape because of the magnetic, the Wi-Fi, yes, all that. I'm not going to go into detail right here, right now. But I got more into the internet, didn't I? And I bought into the Brian Rose Business Accelerator. And he's a very good salesman. It's better the devil you know. I still learn stuff from him now. He puts out some very good content, but he's got some very good sales and some very good sales techniques in the background. He went for mayor. Oh dear. Well, how he raised that money so quickly and so rapidly was because he said, "Oh, I'm going to sue somebody because they've taken away my freedom of speech." But he got scared very quickly and backed off. Well, the whole thing come crashing down. It's not surprising, is it? He did get that bus going. He used that money. Yes, he misappropriated the funds, you could argue, and upset a few people by investing in the bus and going for mayor and stuff. But yes, and he played them games with David, because David likes to make money as well, isn't it? So yes, but we need the money as well, don't we? And yes, we can learn stuff because we are one, aren't we? We are not. We're in the good energy, the good law, the legal, moral, and ethical.
And Brian, have you got any thoughts on the postponement or whatever to do with the gathering that we're going to have?
Yes, well, Rachel was making perfect sense, really, isn't it? And keeping up the good energy as well, because there's only, yes, it doesn't seem to be that great deal of us at the moment, isn't it? And that's sort of what I wanted to talk about as well, because although I'm Buddha conscious and Christ conscious and Krishna conscious, I don't want people to think that I'm one of the Hare Krishnas rattling the bells like it was sort of in the 60s, hanging around airports and having that sort of Krishna consciousness going on. So yes, we're enlightened beings, the next level, aren't we? That was all like 40 years ago. They've got this newfangled, the world's at war, if you hadn't noticed. And we're just in the background. So what Rachel said about coming together as a community makes immense sense, because they have their fates and their fairs and their carnivals. Now, I know they turn a blind eye to it, but they want to have their fairs where they can show their animals and to have the prizes for their vegetables and stuff like that. I know they bury their heads and they don't want to do the politics, but we were brought up that way, wasn't it? Don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion. Yes, don't even talk about the football in the community because it causes arguments. So
Yeah.
it's not,
And this really has been going on for so long, and we're changing that, aren't we? Yeah.
and we are, and you are the movement to do it, and you're doing amazing stuff. And I love what you're doing, Julie. That yes, Yes,
Right, lovely. Are you all
well,
right if I go to Carrie now?
yes,
Yeah,
please.
thank you very much. So if you put yourself on mute again, so Carrie, just any thoughts? And thank you, Roger. Thank you for the wording that you've already had. I know you need to be going fairly soon, but I really appreciate
Okay.
you connecting with us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Carrie. Oh, you're still not, we can't hear you. Have we had this before? Right, Carrie's just sorting herself. So DL, is that a Dave, or we go to DL next while Carrie hopefully gets sorted? Hello, DL.
Hello, how are you?
All right, thank you. Are you Dave or
Daniel.
Daniel? Right, Daniel.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Trying to be
you'd like-
anonymous.
yeah, anything you'd like to say? I don't have to just call you DL.
No, nothing really to add. I'm just listening.
Right, so you're happy enough if we postpone the 30th September?
I mean, I can understand it.
Mm.
I mean, I
I'm
also
quite
think,
gutted that we're not going to get together physically, but hopefully I'll
Yeah.
get together with someone physically on that day if I can, whatever. So yeah.
I went to an event that Rachel put on 1 or 2 years ago, this water event. And I was really surprised how many people turned up. Because there's not that many come to her people speak out Zoom in comparison to the amount that turned up at that event.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether there will actually be a lot more people turn up to the event. Some people just like meeting people in person. So yeah, I really don't know how it would go. And I don't mind it. I mean, it's your call.
Right. Well, I'm going to keep the 30th of September in my diary, and somebody's going to meet up with me, whether they, I won't say whether they like it or not. They can like it, but I'm going to briefly come to Rachel. Carrie, we still can't hear you. Yeah, that's okay. If there's anything you want to share, you could type it in the chat. And so then after I've gone to Rachel, we'll go to Joanne. Okay, Rachel.
Oh yeah, just a really quick one on that. So Daniel, thank you for that. That was actually the sound voice activation event at Buxton, and the reason why we got 180 people there, and people came from all over the country to that. It was a very, very compelling offering event on an astrological conjunction between Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces over the source of the water, and it was all about the water activation. And so just from an event point of view, if we have a very compelling reason or a very compelling offering, then you will get engagement, you will get people traveling from the other end of the country, and people will show up, which is always the trick of how do you create something which is yeah, it's like creating a huge magnet, like a really strong magnet, and then just people just come, whoa, you know, it's like a honeypot. You're creating a honeypot and the bees just come to it. So that is always the thing. And that's what I've always felt, what I keep talking about engagement. It's always a sign that the honeypot is not sweet enough or the magnet is not strong enough. And so when you get the magnet strong, when you get the honeypot strong, that's when people will show up. And so if the converse of that is if it's not magnetic enough, it's a sure sign you're not quite on the right track yet, and you need to adjust, adapt, and until you get that offering right, because once that core offering is right, then it can go very fast. That's my experience in business anyway. Just wanted to add that. Okay.
And also with that, I know you recognize the astrological influences, but also I know until the time is right, it will not happen anyway. And so we also have to accept that, and we don't have to, you know, even be sort of consider ourselves as not doing the right thing. Yeah, I'm going to very briefly come to Simon now. I know Carrie's still trying to sort, but I'll come to Joanne next after we've briefly gone to Prakash as well, because I'm assuming it's to do with what's just being discussed. Okay, Simon.
Yeah, I have a suggestion, a proposal, following on from a lot of what's been said. Let's just suppose the goal was to find somebody in every constituency to be the coordinator in their constituency. Why don't we set up a Google Doc to establish what it would be that we would hand out in a market town. In Tewkesbury still has a market in the middle of town twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays. If I went down there with a bunch of leaflets and handed them out and started to chat to people, what would that leaflet say? So if there's the first time anybody's introduced to this in any way, shape or form, what would
I think we've had that happen in Wakefield, haven't we? With somebody, I can't remember who it was, but I think it was Wakefield or somewhere, certainly.
Patricia.
Yeah.
Patricia.
Well, I have no desire to stand as an MP, because I think it's very, very important that the whole essence of the thing is that collectively we're going to decide upon that in each constituency. But I'd be more than happy to play a role locally in terms of identifying people that this resonates with and building the numbers within Tewkesbury. And the other thing about that is people like me tend to know other people in other parts of the country. I think we could find these 650 people fairly quickly.
Yeah, well, let's keep doing that. But also, I never thought I'd be putting myself forward as an MP, and I'm only doing it for future generations, for my grandchildren and their children and onwards. And as far as my ego is concerned, I really would not want to be doing it. But I know higher self-wise, that is the only reason I've stepped up how I have. So thank you, Simon.
But we only need one in each constituency, just for argument's sake.
So you could just be that one in one constituency for us.
If somebody else,
I'll tease you.
somebody else, you say you don't want the job. So if somebody else came forward that was perhaps more.
And when I say I don't want the job, the only reason I don't want the job is because of what has happened in politics up till now. I am such a community-based person. It is just incredible. And these things should not be happening. And when I say I don't want the job, I'm not a person that wants to be going to arduous meetings and feeling as though I'm not making a difference. And I want to make a positive difference.
Campaign is about
even that wording is too mainstream.
Trying to find the person that huge numbers of people would vote for.
Well, I'm part of the Mansfield Warmer Homes movement, but I've been sort of pushed into that almost, and I'm interested in how I'm stepping through in that at the moment. But I'll be interested to see how that unfolds as well. So briefly, I'm going to come to Prakash and then Rachel, and then we'll go to Joanne, and I think Carrie might have got a sound sorted, but we'll see that then. So Prakash.
So I just wanted to make a very quick point around what you just said, Rachel, around marketing issues, and I think you're definitely on it. But one of the things that I found really touched my heart was I think you posted a video recently of that European MP, and I just thought, you know what, if that could just have been topped and tailed with an introduction and something to encourage more people into the nest, because I do think that there's probably about 10 to 15% of the population that probably see things through a similar lens to how we see things at the moment. And I do think that number is going to increase as people look beyond the veil. And I think if we could have perhaps more regular videos which pick up like big videos like that highlight something really important, that's shifting, because that is a shift in consciousness when you've got a European Parliament discussing vaccine injuries and all the rest of it. If perhaps that was a way of just expanding, and then at the bottom there could be some links to joining the membership or joining the movement, and that might help to increase the numbers, because I think there's a lot of people just wringing their hands at the situation at the moment and not quite sure what they can do, because we feel so small in our capacity as individuals, and maybe it might give encouragement to people, A, to join, and B, to take a step in doing something about what's going on. And that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. And I know that even one person makes a big difference to the whole country. So complementary therapy wise, one person in one country as a politician managed to get complementary therapies totally demonized. One person at the same time in a different country got them up on the high street. So I know one person makes a difference, and that's why I'm here. And that's why I will continue to be here. So thank you, Prakash. If you want to just put your hand down, etherically or whatever we call it, and we're going to Rachel quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. Two things just to answer that, Prakash. The call to action was actually there. It was just in the notes. It wasn't, I didn't actually edit it onto the video for reasons of speed, just to get it out there. And the call to action was in the notes and the link. And we have been getting a lot of subscribers and signups, and comments, and I can see that these videos are working for that. So next time, maybe if I have more time, I'll put a slide in as well. The second thing about what the leaflet, the genius of what Patricia did in Wakefield, it was simply love Wakefield. It was so simple. And it just really was just like, that's so cool. Love Wakefield, using our logo. And so, you know, love Derbyshire Dales, love Tewkesbury. And that to me is such a simple hook, isn't it?
Yes.
So
People do love Tewkesbury.
yeah.
Sure
So
why.
just to have that on your leaflet, if you love Tewkesbury, you know, if you love the people of Tewkesbury,
Yeah. ...
do this, take this
And
action.
that's where I'm with Mansfield and District, and I think a lot of local people know that about me. Right, Joanne, if I come to you now, please.
Yeah, I didn't realise. I thought it was 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
Sorry about people.
have-
Yeah. Sorry. Everything you've said is, I'm a second in command person. I always have been. I find it very difficult to market anything, but I would quite happily stand in our small little community. I would do that. I would be quite happy to do that. I'd get about 10 seats. I don't know how we do. Sorry, are we doing it the general? Are we talking about this standing?
Well, we're really talking about, we do want a candidate in every single constituency for the general election as and when it is announced. And the other thing we're talking about is we're looking at, because we're still having considerable problems being able to book a venue for the Saturday the 30th of September, we are looking at postponing that. I suggested, could we have different 6 or 8 we've suggested throughout the country on that day or on a different day. And at the moment, we sound like we're sort of suspending it until possibly January, but we haven't come to a firm conclusion, and we're going with the flow as to when it feels right to sort that.
And, yeah, I would agree with all. Well, I'm completely lost on all the energies, but I think it's fascinating what Rachel said, and that is absolutely fascinating. It's so lost on me, and I find it amazing. And what I'm thinking, if you get obstacles, like in any kind of life, and something's not going smoothly, like I say, you're not probably meant at that time. So I would be happy to wait January, because everything seems to be, like you say, they're saying, no, you can't use this venue. And it's almost like it's not meant to be just this time. But that's just my opinion. Any obstacles, I always think something's trying to tell us something to just go slower.
Well, there's a story from the Bible that this person was told by God to go to a certain city, and he set off on a donkey, and the donkey kept turning, donkey kept turning, donkey kept turning. He was ready to thrash the donkey. An angel appeared and said, every time the donkey turned, it was because I was telling it to, because God has needed you to go through this.
That's a good one. I've not heard of that one, but there's so many.
That helps me so much in my life since I've heard it, and I don't need to thrash the donkey that I'm on. I need to accept and go to the higher self, and some people might not agree with those concepts, but that helps me to continue to function as best I can in life. So thank you, Jo. Right, Carrie, let's see if you've got any sound. No, it hasn't. No. If there is anything you want to say, if you want to put it in the chat. But other than that, we'll assume that you're happy enough with what's been said so far. Yeah, good. Thank you. Right. So I've visited everyone on the screen, and I'm just trying to think of what we said that we needed to talk about. One of the things that Rachel mentioned was that we've now got this love movement that not all are paying anything, even a donation into. And personally, I was initially thinking, well, if they have paid a donation, yes, surely we need to invite them to meetings like this. And then I thought, oh, but are we just doing that they're sort of paying to come in? And so why don't we open it up for everybody? So has anyone got any thoughts on if they are connecting with us with this love movement, do we is it most beneficial and appropriate to actually invite them to these sort of meetings online or whatever, just because they have connected with us? Do they need to have paid? Do they need to have paid a donation? So any thoughts from anybody? If you put your hand up if you want to say anything. Right, Joe, yeah?
Money is a difficult one, isn't it? But it kind of shows commitment of some kinds, a very nominal. I mean, I'm talking really maybe a small amount, but I mean, it's a very difficult one. But if
so
you give,
if someone, because the People's Health Alliance have a bit of a movement of £1 a month or pay £1. I mean, would £1 be sort of a, but do they, if they've already connected to the Love movement, but not actually even paid £1, would we allow them to connect with this sort of meeting? So
difficult one.
Yeah, it is a difficult one. Thanks, Joanne, for your comment. So I'm going to go, I'm assuming this is in order. Brian, and then I'll come to Simon.
Yes, raising money is pretty awkward for you, isn't it? But yes, there's the traditional ways, and yes, I don't know what I'm saying, to tell you the truth.
Well, do you think we ought to invite people to this meeting or to meetings like this online or in person if they've joined the Love movement but they've not paid anything at all, or if they have actually paid a donation? Do we need to sort of invite the donation people, and does it matter as a minimum donation or not?
Yes, thank you for letting me speak. And yes, you just reminded me. Yes, most people sort of online are doing the subscriptions thing, aren't they? And I can't see any reason why you can't keep a subscription pretty low for a newsletter and maybe information, details on the light or something. And people would think that was value, and you would give them value and you would keep them in the link as well. And I think that would up your and you would get a regular subscription then, wouldn't you? Each month you would have a cash flow that you could manage,
right?
And you could deal with it, isn't it? So subscription would be a great idea, I think.
And I know my concept is that we need some form of energy exchange. And when I think of the hours and hours that Rachel must be putting in with monitoring the emails, which I've not managed to do. I did a little bit of that while she was away once, but I've not really managed to do any of that because my life's been so busy in other ways. And I'm hoping that she will give me a bit of a boot up the arse if I need to. And everything takes time, and we need some sort of energy exchange on these things. So thank you for that, Brian. Simon.
One more thing, so sorry if I can sort of remember it. Yes, I go on about the Wellcome Trust to forfeit, but yes, if they do get sued and found that they have to pay some money to somewhere, well, where's this money going to go to? Well, it will go into some sort of trust, won't it? Which the government will. But you want to be that person in the trust claiming these forfeits if these people are going to start paying out for their crimes.
Well, we're going to need to have money. Yeah, every single candidate is going to need some money for that candidacy, and we're looking at £2,000 to £3,000 per candidacy.
A bank as well, but you just need a sort of a community trust or but back in the day it was the cooperative, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's what got corrupted.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian. And I do need to move on because we've only got 4 minutes left till the hour. So Simon, thank you.
Godspeed.
I stuck my hand up because I do need to go at the top of the hour for sure, because a bit of a big deal to make arrangements to be here. But my personal feeling is that you just don't want any barriers to engagement. So certainly there should be an opportunity for people to get involved for nothing to start with. And the whole thing about the power of the pound, the People's Health Alliance, which I subscribe to, it's a donation. By definition, it's voluntary. And if you start introducing subscriptions, then you're creating a hierarchy, which I'd like to think we're getting away with from. It's very interesting that William Keats was talking about the end of money, which is my bandwagon.
And this is where, when you're saying that, if people aren't respectful when they're on a meeting like this, or if they take the information away and we sort of find out that they have in an adverse way, then it's for us to just positively assert and say, you're not coming to another meeting or something like that.
But one thing I was just going to add is this Love Tewkesbury. I really resonate with that, and the whole idea of a simple message wherever you are. Maybe we could go off in different directions with that. Love money, your contribution. You know, we need some money. We don't love it really, but we'd appreciate it.
We love the energy exchange that money enables us to do for our time and energy. And having worked in the banking industry, honestly, I've got a lot I could take an hour up on. But thank you, Simon. Okay, crack on.
Also, I would say is avoid anything which is any suggestion of coercion or manipulation. If you want to give some money, great. If you don't, you know, you're still welcome.
Everybody's welcome. Lovely. Thank you very much, Simon. Okay.
Yeah, I'm of a similar view. I don't think money should be an impediment to participation. I think everybody that has a desire and a willingness should be invited to participate. Having said that, I completely take your point, Julie, about the exchange of energy through money. And indeed, money plays a vital role in getting things done. And so perhaps at every meeting, or indeed any promotion, people should be invited to join. And that's you know, so there's a constant invitation to join in order to just to secure a greater commitment. What would be good is some means of differentiating in some way between what it means to be a member and what it means not to be a member, but for it not to prevent participation.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. And also, I know that it takes usually about 3 years to really get people changed in their approach to life. And I really experienced that through a local, thank you very much, Simon. Thank you for being here. There was a local restaurant on a forest-based business park, and people had just started to go, including me occasionally, which is unusual for me, and they suddenly closed it because people hadn't been using it as much, but they'd sort of planned to close it. And it's like, well, just as it was taking off and people were starting to talk about it locally, they stopped doing it. So we need to keep out there with that unbroken record and keep with the energy that we are with. And also energy exchange, when I say that, it doesn't have to be a monetary energy exchange. And I really do seriously believe, and I know a lot of people don't agree with me on this one, why should 1 hour of my time be different to 1 hour of that person that's paid 100 grand or more for an hour? And, you know, the cleaner that empties the bins, why should they be paid less than the chief executive? And to me, but I know a lot of people don't necessarily agree with me on that. But I know as a world, we could all have the basics for life totally for free. And then, you know, where is money and etc. But that's a whole different discussion. So, and as Joanne's just said in the thing, keeping the energy is vital. So thank you very much for that. Right, anyone else need to say anything else? Because we're on 13:01 and I'm trying to be as precise as I can on finishing the meeting. So I think we'll just finish the meeting recording. And if anyone wants to stay on for any last words between us, then you can. So thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, thanks for hosting, Julie. I'll just end the recording there. Thank you.